Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Taste of Transformation podcast. If you like what you hear, please share with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and all podcast platforms at Taste of Transformation for more episodes like this. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or know of someone who would be a good guest, please reach out to us at tasteoftransformation@gmail.com. Enjoy this episode. Hi, I'm Charles Lewis, and welcome to Taste of Transformation. Here, we interview individuals who are impacted by the criminal legal system, however, are living successful lives. Yes. Our guests share their challenges and triumphs, their stories, and their tools that they use for their success. And we have this discussion, this interview, over some of our favorite meals or meals that we used to cook while we were on the inside. My guest today is Mr. Ron C.
Yes, sir.
How are you, bro?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
So I called you. I asked you what was your favorite meal. You was like, man, I don't care if you bring some tea and some crackers. I'm going to be good. We're just, whatever it is, I'm blessed to have. And I was like, all right, cool. So I was rushing. This was like a quick meal. And I was like, yo, what were some quick meals that we had on the inside when we was rushing? So I got the banquet chicken.
Okay.
And I made some coconut rice with, we also have the whole shebangs, potato chips.
Yeah.
And so let's dive in real quick.
Yes.
Taste the chicken. Tell me if it's what it was, if it tastes like what it used to taste like on the inside. And then we'll start our interview.
Well, I could look at it and tell it tastes like what it tastes like on the inside. I'm not hungry.
You're not hungry. All right, so I'm gonna dive in and have a little piece.
Yes, I appreciate it, and I don't want to, put a hamper on your prepared meal. I'll take some rice.
Nah, man, you good.
I check out your coconut rice. It's good.
Appreciate that.
No, it's good.
So I'm going to give our audience just a brief background of you. And so you have your bachelor's in science, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you have your associate's degree in humanities.
Yes.
You taught a lot of courses on the inside. What were some of those courses that you taught on the inside?
Well, I was facilitating organizational courses that organizations made up, classes, English, parts of speech, and particularly I was tutoring algebra, helping individuals out, because math is one of the subjects that most students, actually 85% of college students, need help with algebra, with math.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at explaining the procedures and the rules and the steps in algebra. And that was my forte in there.
Okay, cool.
Helping individuals.
Yeah, I know, like, that was a big deal. Like, that was needed.
Yes.
On the inside. There were many individuals, I was surprised, who didn't know how to read or do math. So to have someone on the inside who can explain it to them, to help them understand it, I know you was a huge help.
I was. And it helped me also, learning individuals, interacting with individuals, listening. So I did good for them, and they did good for me also.
Nice. And you currently have two businesses, Ron's Handyman Service and Capital Mugs.
Mugs.
And this is one of the mugs that he brought me. I genuinely love this mug. It says "Live Your Perspective."
Yes.
And it's a picture of Brooklyn. It has pictures of Brooklyn where I'm from. And it was gifted. Oh, this is not the Brooklyn one? That's the Brooklyn one.
It's the Brooklyn mug here. And it's Brooklyn, every borough is represented in the capital, and this is specifically Brooklyn, says we outside, represented in the capital. This one here is actually Albany.
Oh, this is Albany. Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
It has looks.
It does have that brownstone Brooklyn look.
And they have a lot in there.
For me, I love to live your perspective.
Yes.
I was reflecting on that
Yes.
Literally, while we was driving to the while I was driving here. So when you presented me with that mug, I'm like, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
if your
you.
perspective is Brooklyn through that, then live your perspective.
Then I'm
That's
living
Brooklyn,
it.
baby.
Appreciate it. So, let's briefly start with your your background, what you feel comfortable talking about. Just give us a brief synopsis of your story.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in East Harlem. And when I was a teenager, I moved to Queens, South Jamaica. And then I went into the military. And after I got out of the military, I was 5 years in the military. After I got out of the military, I ended up incarcerated. I mean, it's details about the situation that I don't want to go into because I'm in pending litigation. I actually served time in prison for a crime that I did not commit. And when it was finally basically proven that I was innocent, I was let out of prison. And I'm still in the process of litigating,
Right.
compensation and things like that.
Right.
So,
which is why we're not going to go into details.
We're not going to go into details. I don't want any obstacles to come in the way between me and what's
paper.
ahead of me.
Yeah, I feel you. So, how many years did you do in the inside before they released you after? Because you were eventually they found that you were not guilty, that you did not commit the crime.
Right. They
how many
received
years?
the evidence. Almost 30.
30 years?
Yes.
As an innocent man?
Yes.
What was that like?
What was that like? I mean, we all exist. We all live, and we all have the opportunity to enjoy life and move forward. And although I was incarcerated, I still move forward. And I'm still moving forward. And there was trials and tribulations. There was hard times, rough times. No walk in the park, as the saying goes. At the same time, I maintained my focus on the future, on being out, on this, and I was able to survive through it.
How are you able to maintain your focus and stay positive? Because that's the one thing. I just met you, but just got in contact with you a few weeks ago.
Yes.
But everyone who I've spoken to about you and who've spoken about you has always said, he's always been a humble brother.
Yes.
He's always been soft-spoken. He's always been kind. He's a real dude.
Yeah.
How are you able to maintain that on the inside, knowing that you were innocent? Because there's people who are guilty and it's difficult to live on the inside, right? Here it is, you're innocent. And you got to go through, you went through some stuff on there.
I went through.
How did you keep that positive mind frame?
Well, let me say this without getting into too much details also. So I was incarcerated, and it was a crime that, no, there's no honorable crime. All crimes are negative and bad. However, certain crimes, especially on the inside, are looked upon so condescendingly, so, they frowned upon that it's hard for an individual who was convicted of certain crimes to survive and progress, and move forward in there. And I was wrongfully convicted of one of those crimes. And it was difficult. It took a lot of patience, a lot of empathy, and a lot of smarts for me to survive. And I survived mainly through my actions. Regardless on what was on paper, people saw me. They saw the way that I walk. And they knew something wasn't right. Hold up, this and this doesn't add up. And I just allowed people to judge me by my movements and not by what someone else said or some rumor or how the district attorney prosecutes and things like that. So And my thing was like telling individuals, if you can't judge me on how you see me, on how I interact with you, on how I walk, then, it's better off that I'm not interacting with you, that I'm not associating with you, because I'm on a positive track. I'm on the track for success, upliftment, and good vibes. Anything else, I could do without. And I just kept moving and passed by it,
Yeah, I can see it, you getting through that way because just your personality.
Thank you.
But I'm just having a hard time. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, imagining that, because 30 years,
Yes.
like, I was guilty of my crime.
Right.
You know what I mean? And heck, it was difficult. I did 5, 6, and it was just difficult, like moving through it, having a hard time dealing with myself.
Right.
So much less someone who is innocent of their crime.
Yeah.
And in 30 years, and to still come out a positive brother, and if not even more. I think like Michael Level telling me like, yo, the brother's even more positive than he was when he was in.
Well, it's like this, because family members and others have asked me, why are you not bitter? Why you don't have a grudge? And I'm saying like this, I never thought of that. I never thought of being bitter or having a grudge, because for me to be upset and angry and bitter, that's not going to add to my life. Believe that. It's going to subtract, if anything. And I would rather have a positive direction rather than a negative direction. And goodness starts from within. I know myself. I know my situation. I know my character. So I've always walked in that. And I didn't allow what some other individuals perceived of me to be my direction. Like, I'm not going to go wild because you're going wild. I'm not going to raise to your level of aggression because you're being aggressive. Of course, I mean, if I had to defend myself, I have to defend myself, whether that's emotionally, mentally, or physically. At the same time, I'm going to use the tools and stay on the track of positivity, of understanding, of empathy. Everybody's going through something. And individuals who may have tried to marginalize me because of what they perceived was my situation, I did my best to educate them and to be empathetic in whatever they were going through, and to have communication, good communication, and just to be me. And a person sees that when you walk a walk. Individuals have told me that have seen me near the end of the time of the time I was incarcerated, after 25, 27, 28, 29 years, that have known me from Rikers Island, the beginning. And they said, you know what, one thing I have to say about you, you're exactly the same. And that's a good thing in regards to me. And a lot of people that are on the right track and doing the right thing, because prison did not change me for the negative. And I didn't need to change for the positive, because I was always already on the positive track. So the transformation and changes that a lot of people go through, because I've seen some dynamic transformations, individuals who have started out very negative and
rough,
grudgingly and rough, I've seen them transform and be some of the very highest thinking individuals and positive individuals and on the right track, and mentors and helping other individuals. And that's where I've always been.
And you did a lot of mentoring.
Yes.
On the inside.
Yes.
When you and I were discussing like some of the things that we were exchanging ideas on, like what to talk about on the podcast, mentoring was a huge component. Education was a huge component.
Yes.
And we were talking about, you brought up the generational gap.
Oh.
And when you started talking about it, like just now, like I can tell you about to go in. When you started talking about it, the passion that you that was behind it, I was like, all right, this is what we're going to talk about. One, because you're passionate about it, but two, I totally agree with you. I think there's a lot of work to be done in that area.
Yes.
Talk to the audience about your idea as far as the gap between, was it the X and Y, and the gap between Generation Z, and why you think it's a hindrance towards us, and how you think it can be enhanced and improved.
Okay, Generation X, this is my generation. That's the generation that people were born between 1965 and 1980. So the ages of 44 to 59 is basically my generation. My generation has been through a lot. You know, we went through the crack epidemic, hard, or very, very, very affected by it. And a lot of other things. Generation Y, the millennials, your generation, comes after my generation. And the millennials there's a lot of go-getters. A lot of go-getters taking care of business, getting educated, and straightening themselves up because of what my generation has been through. Generation Z, I believe, is the most challenging generation. These are the individuals born between 1997 and 2012, roughly, and they're about the ages between 12 and 27. Very challenging, very challenging. I came out into society from being inside during a large span of time, and I almost feel like Rip Van Winkle. You know, Rip Van Winkle, when he went on a mountain and went to sleep for like 25 years and came back and everything was different. He was looking around and everyone was different.
Different in what way?
Society, I'm going to talk about what I've seen since I've been out. I've seen dramatic change. The interactions are not the same. The interaction between male and female is not the same. The interaction between male and male is not the same. The interaction between female and female is not the same. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel as genuine. It doesn't feel as uplifting. It doesn't feel as respected.
So let's break that down. So when you say the relationships between the males and females, and it doesn't feel as respected, give me an example of how your generation reacted, worked with each other, and then how you feel like what's the difference between the Generation Z, and why do you feel like it's worse?
Okay, so my generation, Generation X and even Generation Y have had better interactions with each other, more compassion, I believe, and understanding, and help with each other, help support each other on positive things specifically. Moving on to Generation Z, how I see it, how I've experienced it, I feel that Generation Z, and I don't want to blanket everyone, but most of them, I see that they don't have trust for my generation or even Generation Y, who are the millennials. Generation Z feels very independent. They feel like they have to do everything themselves, and they don't trust us. They don't trust my generation. They don't feel that we understand them. They don't feel that we could give them any type of knowledge or wisdom because they know everything. They know everything. At least that's the way that they feel. And they're doing things as they go along. They're learning from the streets. And let me tell you something. You learn from the streets, and the streets are not going to guide you the correct way. They're not going to guide you in the correct manner. The streets are not going to guide you in a positive manner for a positive future. A lot of what I see Generation Z, they're living for today and tomorrow, and they're not looking towards the future. today has already been determined by the actions of yesterday, and tomorrow will really never get here, because tomorrow we're going to say tomorrow is today. So you're living for today, which is already generated by the action from yesterday, and you living for tomorrow, which is never going to get here, because tomorrow is going to be today, and you're not seeing the future. So as you go on for today and tomorrow, you're always going to be in the same predicament and in the same place and wondering why you can't get ahead. That's because you're not living for the future. You have to set goals for 2 months from now, 2 years from now, 5, 10 years from now. And then when you work towards those goals, you'll have accomplishments and achievements that are bigger than today and tomorrow. And I see that Generation Z is just worried about today, tomorrow, the hustle. They don't want to work. They don't want to do physical work, especially. They do if they have to, but it's a hustle. It's a hustle to get paid. It's not working to get a job done. And people in my generation and Generation Y, we see that. And it's a gap. It's a big generation gap, because who's closing the gap? Who's showing you the things you need to see to travel the journey? The journey is not original. The journey has already been traveled.
Right.
So if I can give you some tools to help you along the journey and avoid some obstacles, why not take them? But they're not picking them up.
So that's something I wanted to touch on is what you said was, one of the things that you said was, they feel like they know it all.
Yes,
right?
It seems so.
And I think we've all gone through, like every human being has gone through that point in their life. Like I went through that, but I went through it as a teenager. You know what I mean? Like I don't know a teenager who at some point in their life didn't think that they knew it all. But as I got into my like late teens, 20s, I realized like, nah, I got to learn from somebody. So let me seek someone who's been through it, even in the streets. When you selling drugs or whatever it was, your game in the streets, you went to someone who was older to learn how to do it. Generations, for what I'm understanding from you, is Generation Z is not doing it.
No, they go to each other.
What do you think is the problem with that? Why is that a problem?
Because they don't have the blueprint. They living by what their peers are telling them and what they're seeing from their peers. And a lot of their peers are just on the fly. They doing it by fly by night. They trying things and going with it, even if it doesn't work. And a lot of it's not working for the long term. You could say some of them are winning right now. I mean, but it's not winning towards their future, towards our future.
Do you think that in some way, Generation, I would say Y, has contributed to Generation Z not reaching out? And if so, how?
Okay, so Generation Y, I believe that did not contribute so much to Generation Z. And I'm not blaming the millennials. I'm observing. I'm saying that the millennials were and are too busy surviving on their own. Times are hard. I mean, you really have to partner up and team up to survive. There's so many different aspects of survival and society and things that's going on when individuals stay in an individualistic mindset. It's that much harder.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the reason you believe, one of the reasons that you believe Generation Y wasn't contributing to Generation Z is because we're still trying to figure out, like Generation Y was trying to figure it out themselves and then have the ability to teach Generation Z. Because am I on the right?
You're on the right track. What happened in my perspective is Generation X, who went through the crack epidemic, were tied up. We lost a lot. We lost a lot of ground. We lost a lot of respect. We lost a lot of ourselves. We lost a lot of each other. And as we are resilient people, we started getting it back together, and some of the millennials picked up the bad habits. Most of them realized that, hold up, this is not the way to go. This is not the track that leading towards success. Let's go this way. And in going that other way, a lot of the millennials had to be selfish. Had to, like, I have to do this for me before I help anyone else, because if I can't do it for me, then I definitely can't do it for anyone else. So they were in that mindset, and it transferred down to Generation Z, who were in the mindset, well, they doing their own thing. I'm gonna do my own thing, and their own thing is so dramatic,
different.
very different, and they had gotten to a point where doing their own thing means not listening to generations like Generation Y or Generation X. They don't listen to us. They don't want to listen to us because they feel that they know more than us and they know everything. But let me tell you something. Ain't nothing new under the sun.
Right.
Everything that you even think about doing, I already done. Period. So it would actually benefit Generation Z and Generation Y to look and observe and listen to Generation X and the baby boomers who was before me, and because we could learn a lot. Now, Generation Z is dealing with a lot. They have a lot of technology, all of these social media platforms which are showing them the way to live. I don't think that they're doing the right thing. They're not doing the right thing. It's too much, too saturated with nonsense.
Yeah. So it sounds like, so with Generation X in our community, in our neighborhoods, with the crack epidemic, it wiped out a lot of our leaders, our fathers, the head of households, between whether it was because of them going to jail or going to jail for using or for selling. Drugs destroyed the community. Generation Y comes along, and they can't really reach out to Generation X because either they're on the drugs or they're locked up because they were selling the drugs. And now they're having to learn like on their own. And in some ways, I feel like I fall into this too. That idea, that mind frame of, I cannot teach someone else if I don't have it. So let me make sure I have it together first. And then I focus so much on making sure that I have it together first, that I'm not teaching who's coming up after me. And then the Generation Z who's coming up after me, they're not getting the information that from me that I didn't get from Generation X. And now they're just like, I don't even need y'all. Like, I'll figure out how to do this. I'll figure out how to do this on my own.
Precisely. That's what's going on. And that's been
tough.
Going on. And it's very tough. And one thing I said, I've been away for quite some time. And when I come back to society, I see how the youth are, the teenagers, the early 20s, even the mid 20s. And I scratch my head. It confuses me because in mass, I see that it's like they all read the same script, and they all have the same behaviors. I mean, it's like inconsistent. And they're not compassionate. They're not dependable. They're not respectable, respectful. It's a lot. And like, once again, I don't want to bash Generation Z or any generation, because all generations have their own misfortunes and their own quirks. Generation Z, I am scared for. I am worried about.
Why?
It's because it seems like the analogy is a train on a track going 85 miles an hour. And then they've been going fast for a long time, doing things that are not conducive to growth and development for the future. And the train has been going on this track at 85 miles per hour for a long time, and no one's slowing down. And it's been going around curbs, and it's surprising that it didn't tip over yet. And it's been going around, and I can see that as soon, if it doesn't derail, which it might derail very soon, it's going to hit that brick wall. And 2025 and beyond, I believe, is the brick wall. And I don't want to scare anyone, but this is the vision that I see ahead, because what's going on in society right now with multiple generations is just not, I don't see the success and the victory. I see destruction.
Yeah. So what do you, I agree. I feel like in this day and age, there's a lot of selfishness,
Yes.
A lot of
Yes.
self-love.
Yeah, that could be a good thing
It's
too.
a lot of,
it's a
but
good
I
thing.
mean, but
No, but the selfishness
when
with
it's,
that.
when it's just the love of self,
Yeah.
like I look at social media
hmm
and I see how many people are constantly taking selfies. I think that in and of itself is a, not even trying to be cliche, but a picture of what's happening. Growing up, we had Polaroids, right?
hmm
You always wanted your friends to be in a Polaroid. You always
Mhm.
wanted your family to be in the picture with you. Very rarely did you take a picture of yourself.
Of yourself. Yeah.
Very rarely
Yeah,
did
I
you
know.
take a picture
Yeah.
of yourself.
Yeah.
And when I do go on Instagram, so I'm not on it much. I'm not on social media much unless it's for like business.
Mhm.
But when I do go on it, the majority of pictures that I'm seeing is people taking pictures of themselves, or people taking pictures of like their food,
Yeah.
or of like
Yeah.
maybe an animal, you know what I'm saying? Like a cat or a dog or whatever. But it's a lot of self.
Yeah.
What do you think is the key to getting back on course? Because you were talking about like the train being either derailed or
Yes.
hitting a brick wall.
Yes.
So what is the key? What do you think that people need to do, the generations need to do to transform and close that gap so that we can get back on the right track?
Okay, that's good. Let's going towards the solution. So when you say selfies, not only that, you see this on the street, walking down the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm walking down the street, not even stopping, or at a red light and just, checking yourself, but walking down, and you have to see everything that's in your environment, and you have to show everybody what you seeing and what you eating and what you're doing. And what happening is they don't realize that it's actually detrimental. It's detrimental to their safety, their well-being, the future, just to be worried about what everyone else sees that you see. What they're living in the Matrix and don't even realize it. Now, I remember seeing the movie The Matrix, and they were stuck inside the Matrix.
Mhm.
And then they was living the life in the Matrix, but when they unplugged, they fall out. They don't know how to survive and interact. And this is what's happening, especially with Generation Z. They're living in the Matrix. And what's happening is the Matrix is getting ready to crash. And when the Matrix crash, they're not going to be able to survive in society the way that they should be able to survive in society, because they live in mostly in the Matrix right now. And I call it made tricks. Not just the Matrix, it's made tricks, because people are making these tricks for you to get trapped in. So be careful of the made tricks.
How can they come out of the matrix?
That's my responsibility, and that's your responsibility. What we need to do is we need to present other opportunities and alternatives, like in music. The music, I love hip hop. You know, I was
let's
raised
talk about
on hip
this.
hop.
Yeah, let's talk about
And
this.
if you listen to some of the lyrics from the 80s, even early 90s, and you really listen to it, it's about something. It's about a story. It's about how do you achieve something. It's about what people were going through and overcoming adversities and moving forward. Now, I am shocked and astonished some of the lyrics and how people are jacking it because, you know, like some of the lyrics are just so condescending and so disrespectful to females and to males. And then you have guys saying, okay, females do this, and this is what I want you for. And then the females are saying, yeah,
I'm with it. Yeah.
I'm with it. This is, and it's like, what? Wait, that's disrespectful to myself and disrespectful to everyone, to your parents, to your ancestors. And a lot of people are not realizing it. So what we need to do is we need to generate and create and put out more positive music, and it can be done. And this is some of the things that I want to work on. Not only music, fashion. You know, I have a fashion line that I'm coming out with, and it's positive. And also books I write, and others need to write stories that are geared towards positivity. I mean, there's tragedy and drama in everything.
Right.
So, you know, you have that in there, but it doesn't lead to this is the way you live.
Death and destruction, yeah.
And survive. No.
Right.
Different things. We have to come together, and we have to all put in and add.
I think something that's missing from, I would say, what I would be considered, you were telling me like Generation X? I would be considered Generation X?
Well,
I didn't know. I'm horrible at these days.
No, you're Generation Y. You're millennial. However,
right. I'm Generation Y.
You kind of overlap. You in some of Generation X, which is a good generation.
And I was going to speak about that. That's because my mother would not allow me to listen to certain music.
Yeah.
If the music wasn't uplifting,
right?
If the music was for grown folks. Like, I couldn't have been 14 years old listening to, let's say, Bobby Brown. There's certain Bobby Brown songs that I just could not listen to. You know what I mean? Like, some songs I could, but certain songs I couldn't. R. Kelly, not happening. Was not happening. I had to sneak around my mom's, you know, to go and listen to that. But the elders, the Generation X made sure that if I was listening to something that was just too raunchy or watching something that was too raunchy, they would cut it off.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
We don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. Like, so we're here a kid listening to, I'm pretty sure people are going to come at me for this, but I really don't care. Tupac. I feel like Tupac has done so much harm to our community with his music. Yes, he has Dear Mama. That was a great song. Brenda Has a Baby. Great song. But a lot of Tupac's message was about effing these hoes, shooting up the next man, killing, thug life. And then now we have these kids who are listening to the music because 80 to 90% of record sales are done by teenagers, young adults, teenagers, and kids. So now these kids are listening to this music and they're trying to emulate it. And they are emulating it. But it's destruction, it's death. They're out here killing people. They're doing exactly what Tupac said to do. They're doing exactly what Biggie said to do. Yo, if somebody run up on me, I'm popping them.
I got
How do we take that out the family? How do we do that? How do we?
Well, first of all, if you don't like certain lyrics and certain artists, it's your responsibility to create what you do like or what you do feel needs to be passed on. So you have that responsibility, I have that responsibility, and others have that responsibility. Because today, you can't do what we did to our youth. Today, you can't tell them, don't do this, or,
because they're not going to listen. They're just like, yo, you don't know nothing.
Not only that, they're not going to listen. They don't have to listen. the courts, the laws are geared towards protecting them, which is good. I'm for protecting our youth. However, it does take a lot of authority away from the parents. Like as parents, you can't discipline a child with any type of aggression nowadays. Right. They'll divorce you quick, and they'll call the cops on you quick. And they have a lot of rights, which they always had, and they should have, because there are abusive people. That's in every generation. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we need to learn how to be creative enough where we attract them with the lyrics. We attract them with the beat. Okay. We attract them with the fashion. We attract them with the reading, with the books, with the education. It's really, the onus is on us, really, because they're already entrenched in what they're doing and how they're doing it, and they don't see it as wrong because they see themselves as winning. And short term, they doing this and doing that, and they getting what they want, for now. It's not conducive to their future. Right. It's not conducive to their growth and development. It's gonna be a time real soon where Generation Z opens their eyes and wakes up and say, "What did I do to my body? What did I do to my mind, my emotions?" Everything's gonna be off balance, and I don't wish this. I'm not pushing this on them. I'm not speaking it into existence. What I'm saying is what I'm observing. And from what I'm observing, I'm realizing I have a greater responsibility, because it takes a whole village to raise one child. A whole village. You know what I mean? That child goes over there and get your hand out the dirt. Somebody's telling them with love. Right. Goes over there. Hey, don't step in that. That's a puddle. Your feet gonna get wet. Your socks gonna get wet. Don't do that. Over here, don't stand over there because this could fall on you. Everybody has to chip in and put what needs to be put into their mind, into their focus, onto their journey. And we all have a responsibility. And that's I admire you for doing this podcast, because this is what's needed. This is what's needed. There are plenty of people that are doing what you're doing and trying to gear things towards a positive direction where it should be going.
So for you, a part of the solution is for those of us who recognize, like we're seeing where things are going off, is for us to create something, create the opposite of. So if you believe the music is bad music, then create good music. Like put in the work and create the music that you feel like is. Now, putting in the work, it's difficult, right? For some in this day and age, for multiple reasons. Finances, people just not listening. People, sometimes I can be, like, I know for me, sometimes I'm just like, it seems like it's hopeless.
Wow.
Right? Sometimes it can seem like it's hopeless.
I didn't want to say that. Sometimes that has crossed my mind. Right. However, I can't grasp that. Right. I can't hold on to that concept. I need to continue to move forward and do what I do and allow others to see, hold up, that's the way to go.
So what are some of the things that you're doing?
Some of the things that I'm doing, I still mentor. I talk to like my cousins, other individuals who I come across, and I just drop jewels. It's up to them to pick it up. I drop jewels. I show them the way, how I'm moving forward, and I give some advice. But giving advice is the delivery. A lot of people, sometimes you see guys standing on the corner, you have to do this. If you don't do this, you're gonna go this way, you're gonna go that way. You can't talk to someone. Yeah. You have to communicate with them. You have to interact and be creative. That's the biggest thing that I believe that a lot of us make a mistake in, is that we know the solution and we know what we want to give to them, but we don't know how to give it to them, because you can't just give it to them any old way. They Xing it out. They blocking it out.
So I mentor like youths, right?
Yes, good thing. Thank you for that.
I find that one of the biggest problems they have, and I had like as Generation
Why?
as Generation Y that I had, was how Generation X would speak to me.
Yes.
And so for my parents, and my mom's gotten way better at it, and my dad. Like, so my dad was military, 33 years military. Then
Wow.
he became a police officer.
Wow.
And so even as an adult, it was like, yo, boy, you do what I tell you to do, right? And it's
Yes.
just like, Negro, I'm a grown, like, no, it's not like, it don't work like that.
Mhm.
They've gotten to the point now where they try to understand where we're coming from. But I think that was missing with Generation X when you talk about the delivery. Understanding where Generation Z is coming from, or understanding where Generation Y is coming from, asking them the questions like, okay, why do you smoke weed? Or why does this music intrigue you? And then listening to what they have to say, doing your best not to judge them, because sometimes it's difficult not judging people, but really trying to sit down and understand where they're coming from and then offer the advice.
Yeah.
I feel like, I know for me that was part of why the gap was created, was because the elders come from a do as I say, do as I say, do as I say, talking down rather than talking with.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
I think that dealing with Generation Z, we have to just acquire our patience. We have to pull our patience from the inner depths of our soul, because that's number one. We have to be patient with them.
Yeah.
We have to be patient with and creative. Creativity is what is one of the biggest things that's lacking, I believe, because if you come at them at the right way, in the right way,
Yeah.
they'll pay attention.
Yeah.
They're like, okay.
Yeah.
So you have to, we can't be so stringent and be like, okay, these are the rules and this is how it's going to go. No, we have to say, okay, what are they listening to? Okay, what are they interested in? Okay, how can I make that to come to a better place, to be more positive. Like, let me just digress 1 second on the side. So inside, when I was transitioning, we heard this terminology years ago. It's called thought. T-H-O-T.
Yeah, yo, I could not understand that.
Well, I just heard the terminology, and then one time we get magazines, and I was reading one magazine, and it explained what a thought was. That hole over there.
Yeah.
And as I was listening to some songs, I was like, thought this, I'm on my thought. And they calling each other thoughts, like it's celebrated.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, and instead of criticizing immediately, I started thinking, I said, well, it's better than them calling each other the B word, to me, And I said to myself, it's not only a word, it's actually kind of like a subculture. And it's the way that they dress, the lashes, the everything, the hair always done up, the nails. I kind of get excited because this is the women that look like that is my attraction, especially the lashes get me every time.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, and I said, well, because they saying a thought, because it just became a name now. It's not about what it means. Right. It became a name, and they subconsciously call each other that. And I say, you know what? That thought mentality, the thought look is not going anywhere because it's attractive to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So why not turn that THOT terminology to a positive? So I kind of made a song.
Okay.
And it's called, it has that terminology, but THOT stands for that honey on time.
Okay.
Because no matter if a female is, going around the block a couple times or whatever she's doing, she's on time for somebody. Mm-hmm. And from back in the days, we called females honeys, Mm-hmm. So that honey on time, because she's on time for somebody. So I made a little song called, Baby by a Thought.
Okay.
And it's talking about, the interaction and just being with someone that's on time for you. And they're looking good and they're on time for somebody. So, like I said, eventually I'll probably come out with that or pass it on or something. But it's pushing a positive agenda with something that was not so positive in my view.
That's an interesting approach, because as you were talking about, I was like, yo, where's he going with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you turn it to that honey over there,
that honey on time.
Oh, excuse me. That honey on time. That honey on time. Yeah. You're actually taking that generation back to your generation,
without saying it,
and it bridges the gap.
That's what I'm talking about.
So that's a very creative and subtle and cunning way of bringing them back and bridging the gap. And I think that's it's important, right? Because
it's very important. You should hear the song.
I'm going to hear it when we get off this joint. Because, when I heard, a friend of mine, she was telling me about, like, thought. I didn't know, when I first heard the word, I was like, what's a thought?
What?
And it was like, oh, that hole over there. And I was like, and then when I actually heard somebody, a friend of mine was telling me about, she was a teacher, and one of her students was like, yo, she's a thought. And so she was like, what's a thought? And she was like, thought means that hole over there. Yeah. And so the teacher said to her, my friend said to her, so yes, when you say she's a thought, what you're saying is she's sense. That hole over there. That doesn't even grammatically make sense.
Correct.
Like, do you understand how you sound?
I understand that.
And the little girl was like, but you know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
They don't think of it in the structure of making sense.
Yeah.
It's thought of in the structure of how it sounds and how popular it is to the peer group.
Yeah.
So that's the aspect where we need to come from, and that's what I thought about. And I said, okay, this is like a starting point for putting it the right way to make what they made, make it viable and valuable, but in a positive way, not the valuable because so much value is put in negativity in this generation, in Generation Z. So much value is put into negativity in this bag.
Yeah, so I wish we had a lot more time, man, because I really want to dive more. I might have to have you come back, if that's cool. So we spoke a lot about the transformation of the generations.
Yes,
I want to circle back to your transformation. I don't know if there really was like a lot, you know what I mean? Because like you were innocent.
Yes.
And you already had like a strong character.
Yes.
But there's always some type of change. I find that there's always some type of change, especially like in 30 years.
Yes.
The 30 years that you were in, talk about your transformation, and what that process looked like for you.
Okay.
And why you felt like it was necessary.
Okay. So, first, let me just clear up. I definitely don't want anyone to think that I'm bashing any generation. I love all generations. I love Generation Alpha, which are the youngsters, Generation Z, Generation Y, the millennials, your generation, my Generation X, and the baby boomers above them, and even the generations above them. I wouldn't bash anyone. I just want to do my part in helping. And, the transformations that I experienced inside did come about into helping me formulate how to survive out here in society and how to help and do my part. Because
what was if you can think of something specific that in a specific way that you did change, what was it? What was it?
Education is big. When I took the college classes, and originally I wasn't going to take the college classes because I felt like I was just too focused on surviving in there, too focused on working to get out of there, and I didn't want to concentrate on education. But someone told me, and it was a librarian, Miss Kent. I remember her. She had told me that why don't you go ahead and go to college? Because 2 years is going to go by anyway. So after the 2 years, do you want to have a college degree or do you not? This was for the associate's degree. And I thought about that and I signed up, and 2 years later, I had an associate's degree. And being exposed to that education is definitely a plus. I would advise anyone that has the opportunity to take college classes, go to college, to do it, because you do learn a lot. I also learned a lot by dealing with individuals, the type of person I am, and I don't want to project that I was the great person my whole life and I didn't need to change. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is I always had a good character, and that carried me through even on the inside and transferring to out here. Mm-hmm. So I always was in the mode of transforming for the better and learning. Any type of wisdom that you can get from someone, take it in.
Yeah.
If they give you advice or suggestions and you can't use them, then just let it go. Mm-hmm. But learn from everything. Mm-hmm. Take it in and use what you could use, and then just push to the side what you think does not apply to you. Sometimes we could put it to the side and realize, hold up, let me go get that. That applies to me. Or if it didn't then, it does now. And at least I know a better way to strategize how to do things. I really believe that individuals should listen more, communicate more, and be more empathetic. When you kind of try to put yourself in a person's point of view or understand what they're going through based on what you went through, it helps you grow. It helped me grow. Mm-hmm. And there's one quote I want to say, and this was very transforming also. And it was written into the wall, etched into the stone. And it was in Old English. Hardly anyone used to read it. And I didn't read it either, going in and out the mess hall. One day something happened and we were stuck, and I looked on the wall and I finally made it out. And once I made it out, I always remembered it. And it pertains to all of us, especially going through stuff. And it goes like this. It said, "Whatsoever falls upon thee, take cheerfully and be patient. For gold was tried in the fire, an acceptable man in the furnace of adversity." And I kind of broke it down and I said, hold up, wait. Whatsoever falls upon thee, take cheerfully. This situation I'm in, I'm not taking cheerfully. And be patient. And be patient. For gold is a resource that determines the worth of countries, how much gold is in a country. Right. And in order to find out if it's real gold or not, they melt it down, burn it. Right. And if it comes back to its form, to real gold, then you know it was the real deal. Right. So gold was tried in the fire, burned down. Right. And acceptable man, a man that's acceptable in the eyes of a higher power, or just in society, in the universe, acceptable. You do the right thing. Acceptable in the eyes of man, in the eyes of higher powers, then you're going to survive through being melted down the furnace of adversity, through going through stuff, and getting it through it. Be resilient and come up and be patient and be cheerful, and you're going to come out better on the other side, for sure. So whatsoever falls upon thee, take cheerfully and be patient. For gold was tried in the fire, an acceptable man in the furnace of adversity. So you're going to go through a lot. If you're the real deal, you're going to go through a lot, and you're going to come out on the other side and regroup. Stronger. And that was a transformation for me. That quote right there. If you could remember that, and whatever you go through, just be the real deal. Come out on the other side.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes. we will end it on that note.
Yes.
See you at the next meal.
Peace.
Thank you for joining Taste of Transformation.
All right.